The patrol and the scan Captain Blake commanded the human warship Retribution on what should have been a routine patrol along the outer rim of Terran space. The massive dreadnought drifted silently through the asteroid field of the Kepler system, its dark hull nearly invisible against the cosmic void. "All quiet on the sensors, Captain," reported Lieutenant Davis from the tactical station. "No sign of hostile activity in this sector." Blake nodded, satisfied with the peaceful patrol. Humanity had been at peace for nearly a decade, focusing on exploration and trade rather than warfare. The Retribution was one of only 12 active warships in the entire Terran fleet, maintained more for show than for any real expectation of conflict. The ship itself was a marvel of human engineering, 800 meters of hardened titanium, and exotic alloys bristling with weapon systems that most of the crew had never fired in anger. Its crew of 200 represented the best of humanity: scientists, engineers, and soldiers who had volunteered for the quiet duty of protecting Earth's expanding frontier. Commander Hayes, the ship's executive officer, studied the long-range sensor displays with the methodical attention of a career military officer. "Captain, we're picking up some unusual energy signatures near the outer planets. Could be natural phenomena, but the patterns are regular." "Take us in for a closer look," Blake ordered. "Standard reconnaissance approach. Let's see what's out there." What they found changed everything. Hidden in the shadow of Kepler 7, a gas giant on the system's edge, was a fleet unlike anything in human records. 43 vessels of alien design hung in perfect formation, their hulls reflecting the dim starlight with an oily sheen that suggested advanced stealth technology. "Unknown configuration," reported sensor operator Wilson, her voice tight with professional concern. "The hulls appear to be partially organic, possibly grown rather than built. Energy signatures are off the charts." Blake studied the tactical display with growing unease. The alien ships were clearly military vessels, armed with weapon systems that dwarfed anything in the human arsenal. More troubling was their position, perfectly placed to monitor all traffic between Earth and the outer colonies. "How long have they been there?" he asked. Wilson ran calculations on her console. "Based on the orbital mechanics, at least 6 months, possibly longer. They've been watching us, Captain." The implications were staggering. An unknown alien force had been conducting surveillance on human space for months without detection. Their technology was clearly superior, their intentions unknown, and their presence a direct threat to every human world in the system. "Communications," Blake ordered. "Prepare a standard first contact protocol." Maybe the aliens made the decision for him. Without warning, without any attempt at communication, the alien fleet launched a coordinated scanning attack on the Retribution. Energy beams that felt like ice-cold fire swept through the human vessel, penetrating every bulkhead, every compartment, every system. But this wasn't just a sensor sweep. Blake watched in horror as the alien scanners began downloading data directly from the ship's computers. Technical specifications, crew records, weapons capabilities, defensive systems, everything that made the Retribution effective was being stolen in real time. "They're in our systems," shouted Chief Engineer Martinez from his station. "I can't stop the data transfer. Their technology is just ... better." Blake felt a cold rage building in his chest as he watched the violation of his ship continue. The aliens weren't just scanning them. They were dissecting them, learning everything about human military capability with clinical precision. "Captain," Davis reported with barely controlled anger, "they're accessing our navigation computers. They now have the location of every human world, every colony, every outpost." The scanning continued for 17 minutes. 17 minutes, during which the Retribution was helpless, its crew forced to watch as their enemies learned everything they needed to know to destroy human civilization, But the aliens made one crucial error in their arrogance. They assumed that human technology was primitive, that human ships contained nothing dangerous to advanced beings like themselves. They scanned everything without protection, downloading data without analyzing what they were actually taking. They had no way of knowing that human military doctrine included failsafes that even human crews weren't told about. Hidden deep in the Retribution's computer core was a Guardian program that activated only when hostile forces attempted to access classified systems. The program was called Project Nemesis, and it had been waiting for exactly this moment. As the alien scanners finished their work and began to withdraw, they carried with them every piece of data they had stolen from the human warship. Technical specifications, crew records, navigation data, and one additional file that began to replicate itself across their networks the moment their systems processed it. The Retribution drifted alone in space as the alien fleet departed, apparently satisfied with their intelligence gathering. Blake and his crew could only watch as their enemies disappeared into hyperspace, carrying with them the knowledge to destroy humanity. They had no idea that they had also carried their own destruction. The hidden weapon Admiral Stone sat in the Emergency Command Center deep beneath Earth's surface, listening to Captain Blake's report with growing concern. The holographic display showed the alien fleet's last known position, now empty space after their departure from the Kepler system. They took everything, Blake reported, his image flickering slightly over the quantum communication link. Ship, specifications, crew data, defensive capabilities, and the coordinates of every human settlement within 50 light years. Defense Minister Carter leaned forward in his chair, his weathered face showing a strain of command during humanity's first contact with hostile aliens. Estimated time before they can mount an invasion, with our technology in their hands? Blake considered the question grimly. They know our weaknesses now. Maybe weeks, maybe days. Around the table, Earth's military leadership exchanged worried glances. The Terran fleet consisted of 12 active warships and 37 system defense platforms. Against 43 superior alien vessels with complete knowledge of human capabilities, the mathematics were simple and terrifying. But Dr. Reynolds, Director of Advanced Weapons Research, was smiling. "Gentlemen," she said quietly, "I think you're forgetting something important. Project Nemesis." The room fell silent. Most of the people present had heard rumors of Nemesis, but only a few knew the details. It was humanity's most classified military secret, a program so dangerous that its existence was known only to the highest levels of government. "Explain," Admiral Stone ordered. Reynolds activated a secure holographic display showing the technical specifications of what appeared to be a simple computer virus. Nemesis is a self-replicating adaptive algorithm designed to infiltrate and neutralize advanced computer systems. It's been installed in the core systems of every human warship for the past 5 years. General Brooks, commander of Earth's ground forces, studied the data with professional interest. What exactly does it do? It learns, Reynolds explained. When hostile forces attempt to access classified human systems, Nemesis copies itself into their networks and begins mapping their technology. Then it starts making improvements. The implications slowly dawned on the assembled officers. The aliens hadn't just stolen human technology. They had invited a digital parasite into their most secure systems. How long before it takes effect? Carter asked. Reynolds checked her calculations. The program needs time to analyze their systems and identify vulnerabilities. Based on our projections, 48 to 72 hours. Meanwhile, light years away, the alien hegemony fleet arrived at their staging base in the Vega system. Fleet Commander Thax reviewed the intelligence gathered from the human vessel with satisfaction. The primitive beings would pose no significant threat to hegemony expansion plans. Their weapons are crude, reported Intelligence Officer Krell, analyzing the stolen data. projectile-based systems with limited energy output. Their defensive capabilities are minimal. Dax's insectoid features clicked with approval. The hegemony had conquered 17 species in the past century, and humans appeared to be among the weakest they had encountered. Begin preparations for the invasion fleet. We'll need minimal forces to subdue their worlds. Neither of them noticed the small anomaly in their computer systems. A simple subroutine that had tagged along with the human data. Nemesis was already at work, mapping the hegemony network with patient thoroughness. The program was designed by humanity's best computer scientists to be undetectable by any known scanning method. It didn't attack or damage systems initially. It simply watched and learned. Every security protocol, every weapon system, every communication channel was quietly cataloged and analyzed. On the flagship Dominance, Chief Systems Engineer Vex noticed unusual patterns in the network traffic, but dismissed them as processing artifacts from the human data download. The hegemony's arrogance was their weakness. They couldn't imagine that primitive humans might possess technology dangerous to their advanced civilization. Asterisk. On Earth, President Martinez addressed the Global Council about humanity's first major victory in interstellar warfare. The alien threat has been neutralized without firing a single shot, she announced. Their entire invasion fleet is now under human control. But the victory was more than just defensive. The captured hegemony vessels represented the greatest intelligence coup in human history. Every ship contained advanced technology, star charts showing the locations of alien worlds, and most importantly, complete records of hegemony military capabilities. General Brooks reviewed the intelligence data with professional appreciation. According to their records, the hegemony has been expanding across this sector for over a century. They've conquered 17 different species and enslaved billions of beings. The moral implications were clear. Humanity had not just defended itself, it had struck a blow against one of the galaxy's most ruthless empires. The question now was what to do with that responsibility. In the interrogation centers established aboard the captured ships, human intelligence officers began the systematic questioning of hegemony personnel. The aliens, accustomed to being the interrogators, rather than the interrogated, proved surprisingly cooperative when faced with the slow failure of their life support systems. The Hegemony Council rules from the capital world of Dominion Prime, revealed Intelligence Officer Krell under questioning. They control 73 worlds and over 1 trillion subjects. The intelligence painted a picture of a vast empire, built on conquest and oppression, with humanity's sector marked for complete annexation and the enslavement of the human species. Captain Blake stood on his bridge, looking out at the 43 captured warships that now flew human flags. Admiral Stone, we have a decision to make. Do we stop here, or do we take this fight to them? The hunt was about to become a war. The Empire falls. 6 months after the capture of the Hegemony invasion fleet, humanity launched the largest military operation in its history. The captured alien vessels, now crewed by humans and upgraded with Earth technology, formed the core of a liberation armada that would have been unimaginable just a year earlier. Admiral Stone commanded the fleet from the bridge of the former Hegemony flagship, now renamed Justice. Around her, human officers worked at alien control stations they had learned to operate through months of intensive study and prisoner interrogation. All ships report ready for hyperspace transition, announced Captain Blake, now serving as Fleet Operations Commander. The liberation of the Hegemony begins now. The first target was the prison world of Collar 7, where the Hegemony held millions of enslaved beings from conquered species. Intelligence gathered from captured officers had revealed the location and defensive capabilities of every major Hegemony installation. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, Their mixed human-alien technology, giving them capabilities that neither species could have achieved alone. The hegemony defenders, expecting to face primitive human vessels, found themselves confronting their own warships, commanded by an enemy that knew their weaknesses better than they did. Hegemony vessels, this is Admiral Stone of the Terran Liberation Fleet. She broadcast on all frequencies. You have 30 seconds to surrender or face the consequences of your crimes against sentient life. The hegemony response was predictable. They opened fire with everything they had. But human crews, trained in tactics developed specifically for fighting hegemony technology, were ready. The battle lasted exactly 12 minutes. When it was over, every hegemony defender was either destroyed or captured, and the liberation of Caller 7 began. Dr. Reynolds led the first rescue teams into the prison complex, finding conditions that would haunt her for the rest of her life. Beings from 17 different species were crammed into facilities designed for maximum suffering rather than efficient containment. How many? Asked Colonel Martinez as his Marines secured the complex. 2.3 million prisoners. Reynolds reported, her voice tight with controlled rage. They've been here for decades. Some were born in captivity. The liberation of Caller 7 was broadcast across human space and to every world that had received clandestine human transmissions. The message was clear. Humanity would not tolerate the enslavement of sentient beings, and it had the power to enforce that principle. But the real shock came when the freed prisoners began to tell their stories. Species after species reported the same pattern. Hegemony scouts would appear, scan their worlds for weaknesses, and return with invasion fleets tailored specifically to exploit those vulnerabilities. They did to everyone what they tried to do to us, Blake realized as he reviewed the testimony. The scanning, the intelligence gathering, the targeted attacks. It's their standard operating procedure. The difference was that humanity had been ready for it. The campaign continued. For 8 months, world after world fell to the human liberation fleet as the hegemony's carefully constructed empire crumbled. Each victory brought new allies, freed slaves who joined the fight against their former oppressors, each contributing their unique knowledge and capabilities to the growing coalition. The final battle took place at Dominion Prime, the hegemony capital world. The planet's massive orbital defenses, built over centuries of conquest, seemed impregnable until Nemesis virus variants, adapted from the original program, infiltrated their control systems. Emperor Vorth, supreme ruler of the hegemony, watched from his crystal palace as human ships landed on his capital world unopposed. The defense grid that had protected his empire for 1,000 years had turned itself off at the command of a computer virus created by the primitive species he had planned to enslave. "This is impossible," he declared to his cowering advisors. "We are the superior species. We have ruled this sector since before their species discovered fire." General Hayes, leading the ground assault on the palace, found the Emperor in his throne room, surrounded by the tribute of 100 conquered worlds. The reptilian ruler's scaled hide bore the ritual scars of ancient victories that no longer mattered. "Emperor Vorth," Hayes announced formally, "you are under arrest for crimes against 17 sentient species. You will be tried under the laws you violated when you chose conquest over coexistence." The fall of the hegemony sent shockwaves across the galaxy. In 1 year, humanity had gone from unknown primitives to the liberators of an entire sector. The species that had been scheduled for enslavement had instead become the founders of a new galactic order based on freedom rather than conquest. On Earth, monuments were built to commemorate not the victory, but the principle that had made it necessary. The central inscription read simply, "When they scanned our ship, they learned our weaknesses. When we scanned their empire, we learned their crimes." Justice was the inevitable result. The age of empires built on the suffering of others was ending. The age of humanity had begun. The end, asterisk.